Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Trailblazers podcast. Dr. Green, welcome to trailblazers.fm.
Thank you so much, Stephen. It's my pleasure to be here with the Trailblazers. I'm so excited to have this opportunity, so thank you.
Great to have you. Great to have you. So we start our conversations off in every episode from a place of gratitude, right? I feel that it centers us. And so I want to ask you right off, what's an unexpected blessing that you're most grateful for in your life right now?
An unexpected blessing, I would say, is having a peace of mind and a state of calm when there is craziness and mayhem in the world. And I've started a practice that I used to do all the time, but I'll be honest and admit that I kind of gotten away from it, where I would say my prayers in the morning, but it didn't also include like an extensive list of things that I'm just grateful for, like the activity of my limbs, the ability to breathe without struggling, the ability to exercise and be safe and sound and free from any inner or outer harm. And those things that we sometimes take for granted, that basic sense of shelter and food and clean water that sometimes people take for granted. I've been counting those as things that I'm grateful for every day, just to stay grounded in that I don't have any immediate harm. And if we're in the middle of this COVID-19 global pandemic crisis, and just being present in the moment, that sheltering in place, even though it's not always desirable, it's keeping me safe.
Yeah, that's real. I share the same thing, where it's not something that I do all the time, but actually, I don't know if you've ever heard of. Are you familiar with Tim Ferriss?
Who is it?
Tim Ferriss. He wrote the 4-Hour Work Week.
Yes, I've heard of that, but I haven't read it.
So he has this book called Tools of Titans, and in there he had this reference to gratitude practice. And it's 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. Okay. But in the morning, he kind of creates these categories that you would write in your journal. So every day it's different. Like you'd pick like 3 or 4 buckets to acknowledge gratitude for. And at the end of each day, you take 5 minutes again and write what you're grateful for that happened through that day.
Oh, nice.
Again, I'm not as disciplined, and there's so much chaos happening right now. You don't do it every day. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. That's really great. Where'd you grow up?
So thank you for sharing that. I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, born and raised. I graduated from University City High School, which is it's a part of St. Louis greater metropolitan area. So I'm a St. Louis girl.
I've never had the pleasure of getting to St. Louis. Tell me about what comes to mind when you think about growing up in St. Louis.
Okay, so there are a couple of things. St. Louis is famous for the Arch. We're the gateway to the, and there is my favorite food ever on the planet, even though I'm now as an adult mostly gluten-free, mostly dairy-free. There's this pizza called Emo's Pizza that I grew up in, St. Louis style, thin crust with this special sauce, special cheese blend. It is amazing. And everybody I know from St. Louis who moved away, that's like always the first stop there and White Castles. But I stopped eating beef like 20 years ago, and I can't backslide that much. But
can you get it shipped? Can it ship to you frozen?
They started doing that, but I don't know if it will be the same. So I haven't tried it.
Nice. I got to check that out when I'm there.
Yes. And there are some parts of St. Louis. One of the places is called the St. Louis Loop, the University City Loop, U-City Loop is the nickname. And it's a strip of restaurants, and they've really grown and developed it a lot. They put a live theater at the end of the block now, and it's just like a vibrant city center that's outside of downtown. And, it's a music store there. There's it's an eclectic gathering spot that's like 2 or 3 city blocks long, and it's always hustling, bustling. And it's like a mini really small scale New York Times.
Wow.
Not
Times
New York
Square.
Times, Times Square. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a mini Times Square. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Mini, micro. So don't go there thinking it's that big.
Dr.
But
Greenstead.
it has that energy. And the food at every restaurant there is amazing. St. Louis has really good food. And
I'm Jamaican, right? I love good food.
Yes. There's a Jamaican spot there. There's an African spot. Well, this is from years ago, so I don't know what's there now. But yeah.
Do you get back much at all?
Say that again?
Do you get back much at all?
Not as much as I would like, but last October, I had the honor of being inducted into my high school's Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Yes.
That is so dope.
Yeah, that was one of the most emotional awards, because a lot of times heroes aren't recognized in their hometown, or people aren't celebrated in their hometown. And for my high school to recognize my accomplishments as a scientist and as an alum was really, really precious.
Wow. That's special. Congrats. That's dope.
Thank you.
So talk to me about this. How did you choose this career as a medical physicist? Like I'm thinking, physics, I'm thinking Sheldon Cooper, right? Like
yes. I have a little bit of that in me. Not more than I like to admit. I remember, I have to tell you this. There was this one episode where Sheldon Cooper really calculated the airflow in the room to pick what seat was optimal for his preference of the airflow. And I was like, oh my God, I've done that. I have done that before. Like, I really don't like being cold, so I don't want to sit right under the vent.
Wow. Love it.
So I have a little bit more than I like to admit in common with Sheldon.
That is hilarious. Wow.
So when I was growing up, I didn't expect to be a physicist. I had a brother who used to teach me how to do his homework. When he was in 4th grade, I was in kindergarten. And he would teach me all of his math problems and teach me all of his spelling problems. And he would celebrate when I got an answer right with such enthusiasm and pure joy. He literally made learning fun, like a game. And, problem solving and doing puzzles and seeking finds and everything. It was like, okay, see if you can do it faster next time. See if you can do this one faster. And he would challenge me. The funniest part about this whole thing is that when he started having me do his homework, I ended up being the first in the family to go to college, and he repeated the 4th grade.
What? Wow.
So he single-handedly gave me such a strong foundation in math.
Yeah.
That when I tore my ACL what grade was I in? I was in the 7th grade. So when I tore my ACL in the 7th grade, I said, oh, I better start focusing on my academics, because clearly I'm not going to college on a track scholarship anymore. I used to be the fastest girl in the school, and that went out the water. Wow. So when I got ready to start applying for college, and I got some full scholarships, and I took the one from Alabama A&M University, I went in taking calculus as a freshman. And if I hadn't had that strong background in math, then that wouldn't have put me on this specific track. I was coming out of my calculus class one day my freshman year, and this lady named Aisha Fields, who was working on her PhD in physics at the time, she pulled me to the side and she was like, who are you? I haven't seen you before. You must be really smart taking calculus as a freshman. And I said, no, I wouldn't count myself as smart. I have really good study habits and I'm really good at math. I love it. And she said, so she started asking me all these questions about what did I want to do, who I was. And then she challenged me to major in physics so that I can have all of the options that I was thinking of exploring. All of those options would be available to me. She said, because mathematicians, chemists, and biologists can't ever cross over into physics, but physicists can always cross over into all of those other fields. And I said, oh, this sounds like the perfect major for someone who's undecided. But wait a minute, everybody knows physics is hard. Like, you're crazy. I'm not majoring in physics. She was like, who told you physics was hard? Those people weren't taking calculus as a freshman. And she taught me my first lesson in don't let other people's limitations or their realities define what's possible and realistic for me. It may not be for them to do it. God may have intended for me to do that, not them. And so I can't allow someone else's parameters of how they see themselves and what they think is possible for them to define what's possible for me, because it may not apply.
Yes.
So from physics to being a medical physicist was actually that chose me.
Yeah.
I had gone through undergraduate I had gone through my undergraduate studies at Alabama A&M University and interned at NASA, University of Rochester Institute of Optics, and I spent a couple of years in one of the physics labs on campus, and I graduated with a 4.0 in physics with the intention and the plans to pursue a career.
Time up. 4.0 in physics? Wow. That requires a timeout, and let me just allow everyone to digest what you just said. You can keep. That's brilliant. That's the black girl magic right there.
Thank you. And at the time, I knew I didn't have a safety net, and so my mindset going to college was I didn't come to fail. I have a 4-year scholarship. I need to do my best possible in these 4 years. I need to graduate on time. And then I didn't know, I was thinking I was going to graduate school, and my intention was to revolutionize the way we receive cable and internet. And so like getting the 4.0 wasn't, it was just, let me own it. I'm a little competitive with myself, not with other people. I was never the smartest person in class, not even in college, but especially coming through high school. I wasn't the smartest person in class, but I knew if I worked hard, I could make an A. It may not be 100% A, but a 93 or 95 is still an A. And so I happen to be a little bit of a workaholic, where I may not be the first person to turn in my test. Actually, I usually was the last person to turn in my test because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, but I like to make sure I dot my I's and cross my T's. And when I'm studying, I want to make sure I understand everything. So I didn't have the luxury of reading something once and then I got it. Like, I really worked hard to understand and master all of my subjects. And I felt like I had such a unique opportunity to be the first in my family to go to college. And not that anybody was pressuring me. They were all happy that I went, and they expected, because of my track record, that I would do well. But for me, school wasn't hard. When I thought about my ancestors survived coming over on the ship at the bottom with no luxuries, no amenities, no toilets, no sunlight, it was deplorable conditions. My ancestors survived picking cotton and slavery and Jim Crow. Surely I can master calculus and physics. This is easy compared to that. And I had to always give Aisha Fields her credit where credit is due, because had she not just put that seed, planted that seed in me, that if she can get a PhD in physics, that I could too. And that, that she was no smarter than I am. And that's one of the messages I like to share with people. I'm no smarter than anybody else, but it takes discipline to work hard and to really master a craft. So I worked really hard for every A I got. I never got an A that didn't require hours and hours of studying.
Wow. Let me ask you, there's so much gems in so much amazing things you shared here. I'm curious, have you been Aisha to other girls?
I have.
Yeah.
I have. And that's something that, and a lot of them still keep in touch with me. And some of them have gone off And I see them from time to time, or they'll check in from time to time. And it's so amazing because Aisha was the 50th African-American woman to get a PhD in physics. I was number 76. Wow. And I think 2 years ago, we finally crossed over 100. And so, and a lot of them will write me and say, you know, I'm working on my PhD now. Do you have any advice? And I'm like, yes. Like, ignore and resonate above racism, because you can do this. You can do the coursework. I know that's not your challenge. Mm-hmm. And the best advice that I got was from some students who also graduated from A&M, Alabama A&M University, and went to the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And they told me to humble myself and repeat all of my senior level courses from Alabama A&M my first year at UAB, and take time to adjust to racism and being the only Black person in the class and the cultural differences without having to adjust to new course information on top of all of those changes in my environment. And that was some of the best advice that I ever got. Yes. Mm. So shout out and thank you to the twins, the Hillman brother twins, who told me that. I appreciate you.
Wow. Double back for a second. You talked about being the 76th Black woman to earn a PhD in physics.
Yes.
At UAB?
No, in the United States.
In the United States.
I am the second African-American female to earn a PhD in physics from the University of Alabama at Birmingham.
Wow. Wow. That's fantastic. That's something you brag on for sure. You dust those shoulders off. And if that's not amazing enough, you go on to, you're now developing a process, right? That has a potential cure for cancer. Before we talk about that, I from what I've read, this was inspired by your aunt. Can you kind of just lead in and kind of share with us what this story has, you know, bring me along that journey.
Okay, so from age 4, my aunt took my brothers and I in, and she raised me as if we were her children. And she was the only mom I knew. Her and my uncle were the only parents that I knew. I didn't remember my biological parents. They passed, well, my mom passed when I was a baby. I didn't know my father. My grandparents both passed in the same year when I was 4. And that's how we came to live with who I affectionately call Auntie and Uncle Jim Lee, but orally and generally Smith. That's Auntie and Uncle Jim Lee's legal names. Mm-hmm. And becoming the first in my family to go to college, I went on full scholarship, and I knew that I didn't have the luxury of a safety net, because we didn't struggle, but we also didn't have a lot of extra, and I didn't want to go back and put a burden on the family. Not that it would have been, but I just didn't want to ask, because I knew that times can be hard for everybody. And so when I was at Alabama A&M my senior year, I had the privilege and the honor of serving as Miss Alabama A&M University as queen for a year. And I mentioned already that I graduated with a 4.0 in physics, and my whole family came to graduation. And the day after graduation, my aunt announced that she had what she referred to as woman's cancer, and either cervical or ovarian. And she said that she would rather die than experience the side effects of chemotherapy and radiation. And because I was the only person not working the summer after I graduated, I became her primary caregiver the last 3 months of her life. I saw Auntie go from being this strong, church-going matriarch of our family, the cooker of Christmas and Thanksgiving dinner, the glue that held our family together. I saw her go from that to someone who couldn't walk, speak, take care of herself, let alone cook a meal. And I watched cancer deteriorate her whole body. And she was at peace as a Christian woman that she was going to go home and be with the Father. And 3 months after she passed, my uncle was diagnosed with cancer, and he opted in for chemo and radiation. I was also his primary caregiver, and I watched him go from being this strong head of our household, big man, to losing 150 pounds, all of his hair, all of his eyelashes, his fingernails turned black, and his skin looked like it had been barbecued. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And seeing firsthand the horrors of cancer and the horrors of cancer care, I said, there has to be a better way. There has to be. And I had the idea that if a cell phone can call anywhere on the planet and target one cell phone, or if a satellite in outer space can tell whether a dime on the ground is face up or face down, then surely we can kill cancer at the site of the tumor without all of these global side effects all over the whole body. As a physicist with a background in optical communications, it just didn't make sense to me. And so I went on this mission and dedicated my life to developing a technology that can kill cancer in a local and targeted way, and keep it affordable and accessible for all. So I went to University of Alabama at Birmingham and started in the laser lab in the physics department. And I also spent 5 years. So in addition to getting my master's and PhD in physics, I spent 5 years at the Comprehensive Cancer Center and a year in the Department of Pathology at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And when I came out, I developed this technology that uses lasers, and for those who may have a more technical background, near infrared lasers that's actually lower power than a laser pointer. And I developed this new type of nanotechnology that absorbs the light. So without one, the other doesn't work. So the laser by itself is harmless. The nanotechnology by itself is harmless. And only does it heat up and cause whatever it's touching to die. That only happens when the laser activates the nanotechnology, not otherwise. And so you really have to be wrong twice in order to kill something that you're not intending to kill. And so we inject these nanoparticles into the tumor or into the body, and we shine the laser on it. And after one single 10-minute treatment, we show complete elimination of cancer in mice over the course of 15 days with no chemo, no radiation, and no observed side effects.
Wow. Wow.
There is not anything else like it available on the market. And I am very aware of the global implications of having what in essence will be a low cost, highly targeted cancer treatment that can be affordable, especially for poor people around the planet. And I started a nonprofit so that I can ensure that this technology will be affordable, especially for people who come from backgrounds like mine. And I've had offers for investors to come in, and they told me I could be a humanitarian with the share of the money that I make. And I said, you know, shame on me to come from a background where I have a heart to help people who may not be able to afford the best of healthcare. And I developed this technology that can save lives, and then my own family won't be able to afford it. So I made the decision to start what's the equivalent of like a Susan G. Komen meets Eli Lilly. It's a tech-based cancer nonprofit. It's a completely different way of treating cancer, and we're changing the way cancer is treated and starting on a grassroots level, ushering in a new wave of affordable healthcare. And it starts with scientists who create a technology like mine and saying, instead of going the traditional route of getting investors, we're going to start a cancer charity. Because a lot of people don't know that some of the biggest cancer charities raise over $1 billion a year on the hope of curing cancer one day, and
Right.
to raise awareness. And those are very important, because awareness and early detection can save your life. There's a 95% success rate, especially for breast and prostate cancer, if you diagnose and treat it in stage 1, stage 2. The problem in the Black community is that we usually don't get diagnosed until stage 3, stage 4. Right. And then a lot of times it's too late. And unfortunately, because of that, there are nearly 9 million people a year globally who die from cancer. Wow. And my mission is not to compete with the pharmaceutical industry, because even with all of the best of standard and modern healthcare, all the best of alternative and holistic approaches, there are still nearly 9 million people a year who die from cancer. And my goal and mission is to help save some of those people with this technology I developed using lasers and nanoparticles.
Is this focused on particular types of cancer?
Thank you for asking. So this laser activated nanotherapy is designed as a platform treatment for a variety of solid tumors, including breast, prostate, colorectal, head and neck, pancreatic, cervical, and skin cancers, to name a few. And I actually have clinical partners in all of those cancer types who are ready to begin human trials. And I do want to mention that we are the first nonprofit in the state of Georgia's tech incubator. So we have the infrastructure, and the 7th largest healthcare system in the United States has agreed to partner with us to begin human trials. When we raise the money, we literally are within 12 months of beginning human trials once we raise our first $10 million.
Wow, wow, wow. You know, how can we, learn more about Aura-Lee, and how can those listening right now actually help? How can you take part in some of what you're doing?
Okay, thank you so much for asking. That is my favorite question. So we are the Aura-Lee Smith Cancer Research Foundation, and my request is for everyone who hears this to adopt us as your cancer charity of choice. And you can go to auralee.org. That's ORALEE.org, and become a monthly donor at any amount. And my request is to do it now, because a lot of people see what I'm doing. They're excited. They're proud of me. They're rooting for me, but they don't take that action to donate now. So please go to auralee.org, ORALEE.org, and donate now to sign up to become a monthly donor. That's one way that you can support. There are a few other ways I'd like to share. You can shop on Amazon Smile and choose the Aura-Lee Smith Cancer Research Foundation as your charity of choice on Amazon Smile. You log in with your regular Amazon login information, and then we'll ask you to select a charity, and we pop up. So you can select us and you shop. Amazon donates. I love it because it doesn't cost you any extra. There are a couple of other ways that we're asking. On Facebook, we are registered as a charity, and you can have a fundraiser for us on Facebook, and you can donate your birthday or your anniversary or the birthday of a loved one who's been impacted by cancer, or the birthday or any special occasion to honor the memory of a loved one that you lost to cancer. It could be their birthday, or for spouses, your wedding anniversary, to have a way to publicly acknowledge them and support the next generation of people who will need our treatment. We also ask that you remember the Aura-Lee Foundation in your legacy planning and include us in your wills, in your estate plans. We are registered as a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we can accept cars and houses and financial contributions and any gifts that you may want to leave as part of your legacy to build the Aura-Lee Foundation. And I'll put it out there, maybe somebody has a building or something that they would like to leave and build the Aura-Lee Foundation as part of their legacy. We welcome all of that.
Mm.
We also have Cash App and Venmo at Aura Lee Foundation on Venmo, and the $ Aura Lee Foundation on Cash App. And we have a host of employee matching programs, from IBM to AT&T to Boeing to Bank of America and Delta Airlines. Like, there are a host of employee matching programs, Microsoft, and I won't keep naming them, but maybe your company has an employee matching program where they will match dollar for dollar up to a certain amount. So I would ask you to look for that. And if they don't, please establish it and ask your coworkers to join. And every dollar counts. If it's $1, $5, $10, I'd like to acknowledge that we have a donor who sends $2.25 a pay period.
Love it.
And that matters. So any way that you can get involved, if you want to host a fundraiser, a meet and greet, please reach out and let us know. And please follow us on social media at Dr. Hadiyah Green. That's at DrHadiyah Green, like the color, and at We Are Aura Lee. That's WeAreOralee. So that's at Dr. Hadiyah Green and at We Are Aura Lee on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
Love it. Love it. Blazer Nation, you've heard what Dr. Green has said. Let's support and show some love. I love the work you're doing, and I have to bring you back on the podcast because this 45 minutes just rolled off way too quick. But before I let you go, I have a couple more questions for you. Our Blazer Nation community, they love to hear the resources of our featured trailblazers. And so I wanted to pick your brain about any books that you've read or you're reading that you think we should add to the queue.
Yes. So I identify as a progressive Christian, but there's this book called The Dao of Womanhood. And I know a lot of people in your audience are Black women who may identify as Christian as well, so they may not ever touch a book referring to Taoism, but it's the 10 Lessons for Power and Peace. And this book has helped me so much with balancing peace and centering compassion, simplicity, the natural cycles, and it gives 10 lessons for timing, courage, strength, agency, and harmony and personal power. And these lessons have been so valuable and practical, like not waiting until Saturday morning to have a whole list of chores and laundry and errands to run, but to take 10, 15 power minutes at the end of each day and put a load of clothes in and dry a load of clothes and fold a basket, and to do a little bit 3 or 4 times a week, so there's not a big pile, so that you can take your Saturday off or your Sundays and your weekends off to relax and spend time with family, because that's something that's really important. And a lot of times, if you are a successful Black woman, you put so much into everything, and your grind is so hard and so intense that it's challenging to balance all of it. And one of the things, I'll admit, that I would struggle with laundry until I started doing that. Doing a load. And I know that may seem silly, but I'm trying to save the world and kill cancer
and get a load of laundry done at the same time.
Right. And this book also helped me learn how to set healthy boundaries, and that no is a complete sentence, and saying no to someone else or saying yes to someone else means I'm saying no to me. Because when you don't say no to other people, like a no is happening somewhere in your life. Don't let it always be you. So this book has been essential. And I have a lot of favorite books, but for this audience, I thought The Dao of Womanhood, 10 Lessons of Power and Peace by Diane Dreyer, 10 Lessons for Power and Peace by Diane Dreyer. This has helped me so much in life as a woman and a busy working professional that I highly recommend it.
Love it. Love it. Last question for you, and I'll let you get back to your busy day. what's one action that our Blazer Nation community, hopping off this call after listening to this conversation, what should they do this week that's going to help them to blaze their trail?
So I'm going to say this week, I challenge the entire Blazer Nation to say no to something so that you can say yes to some time for self-care, some extra time for your family, some extra time to exercise, to have time to read a book. Say no to something that is not essential. You're probably too busy and stressed from doing too much. So say no. Say one extra thing this week. That's my advice.
I love it.
Say yes to quality things that really move your mission forward. And if I may add something, I used to feel so guilty about not being able to say yes to everyone's invitation. But for me, focusing on the primary objective in life means that you have to eliminate distractions, and you can't be everything for everybody. And if you don't focus on your specific divinely assigned purpose, who else will do it if you don't? Maybe it doesn't get done, and other things that other people can do, let them do it.
Well, listen, I am so happy that a year ago when I reached out to you, you were so busy focused on what you were doing at the time, but God saw it fit that I still got the opportunity to have this convo, and you've been such a blessing. I'm listening to you. You're so polished, all around. You just blessed me. So thank you so very much for coming on and for sharing all you did. You've made a new fan today. If not for anybody else, I'm definitely a fan of your work, and will definitely do my part to support part of our Trailblazer family. So anything you need, and I speak for the thousands that will listen. We'll definitely be behind you and in support of your work.
Thank you so much, Stephen. It's a pleasure to finally have this opportunity to share this time. It's been a blessing for me as well. And count me as part of the Blazer family.